I mean, the market now is predominantly on the non-union side, depending on the size of the job and depending on what the job is. Like most of our road work, and that for bridges, is going union. Same way with like power plants and, big things like hospitals and that. Most of the work, the initial work on the structure and that, has been going union, but there's been a lot of retrofits at hospitals, a lot of smaller medical centers and things of that nature that have been going on union, and it's just an ongoing thing.
Hello everybody, Gavin Coyle. I'm the Gaffer, back again with more guests, and they just keep on coming. These super guys from all over the world, and again back to the United States, we have Clyde King. And Clyde is a construction professional with the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America, and that's a bit of a mouthful in itself. But I've had a number of conversations with Clyde, and I think you'll really enjoy his character. You'll really enjoy his experience and his knowledge, and also his sense of humor. He's got a lot to give back, and he has a lot of interesting thoughts. One of the reasons we wanted to get him on The Gaffer is he helps a lot of people who might feel disadvantaged or might feel that they're not getting the support in construction, and he's the sort of buddy person to go to help them reach the best that they can be within their career, especially carpenters. That's one part of it, but the other part of it is the union side of things and how the unions operate, and whether there's still a strong union in the States and how that operates, and is that the best model going forward? So let's have some discussion about that. But without further ado, I will introduce you to Mr. Clyde King. Hello, Clyde, and welcome to I'm The Gaffer.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor. And yeah, my name's Clyde, with Local 436 with the Carpenters Union, based in West Virginia. Been around the trade for quite a number of years. My upbringing with Dad working as an architectural designer for a firm, I started learning how to do drafting and things of that nature when we built our house back when I was 6 years old. I just turned 60, so you can imagine the time frame. I love architecture. I love building things. I spent 8 years in the United States Marine Corps. I enlisted in 1982 and got out in November of 90, actually on my birthday. And been doing commercial work ever since. I went into a company that needed guys basically as a laborer at first. But the foreman we had knew my upbringing, so being a laborer didn't even last 3 weeks. And I was in my carpentry tools, going full steam ahead. And over the years, I've seen many, many things, be built. Hospitals, schools. I worked on a solar plant here just last year, and I just finished up a little over a month ago a new store that was opening in a mall up around Pittsburgh. So, I do some traveling. With us raising 2 of the grandkids, I try to stay closer to home, or at least be able to come home on the weekends, as I'm also the air pistol coach, but I help out with the air rifle team here at the high school, and we have practice every Sunday right now. We just got starting into our season for air rifle and archery, then air pistol will start after January.
Okay. Tell me, who trained you as a carpenter, and what was that? How did that journey
actually
start?
A good friend of my father's and my grandfather, when we were building the house, but a very good friend of my dad's was a union carpenter and taught me how to swing a hammer and use a handsaw back then at the age of 6. And, I got to help pound some nails, run strings, things of that nature when we built my parents' house.
Very
and that's
good.
kind of where I started learning. And then in the summers after school, I'd be working on things at the house, or I was also with the Boy Scouts of America, and I'm an Eagle Scout. But in the summer, if I wasn't a camp counselor, I'd be working construction, doing different little side jobs and that before I went into the Marines. And even while I was in the Marines, I'd do side work while I was out in California.
It's very much a hands-on experience, career that you've had. Like, you were just basically thrown into the mix, and let's see, has he got the kahunas or has he got what it takes to be a carpenter? Was there any formal process in that? Did you go away to college or to school or to tech school or to some sort of formality to the carpentry?
Not so to speak. In high school, I did drafting, and I've had some college classes with architecture and that while I was in the Marines. So
yeah, and I think that's I had a couple of ex-Marines on the show, and they kind of feel that there's not enough done in the Marine space, to maybe bring people on so that they have a career outside of the military and stuff like that. So you didn't get a chance to do any sort of hands-on carpentry experience in the military, did you?
No, just side work. Because when I was in the military, I was actually a member of the United States Marine Drum and Bugle Corps.
Okay.
We did we performed. I was stationed on the West Coast. We called ourselves the West Coast Drum Corps, the sister corps to the Commandant's Own that's stationed at 8th and I. And we would travel around performing public relations type things, and change of command ceremonies, and performed at the 84 Olympics. The unit was in Rocky III. I wasn't there yet, but the movie Rocky III, the national anthem was played by the drum corps that I was with. We played for all kind of, dignitaries. I got to meet Prince Charles and Princess Diana when they were still together, amongst presidents and, different world leaders that were visiting. So, my time in the military basically taught me the dedication and leadership that I apply to my life today.
And discipline, obviously.
Yeah.
So, like, you went into the commercial industry. I remember we had a discussion. You kind of went out as a independent contract for services, basically offering your carpentry services on a time model. Put in the time, put in your time card, and put in your invoice or whatever. Or what way did that work? Or how did you go in as an employee maybe at the start, or was it in as a contractor?
When I was doing side work, it was like as a contractor.
Okay.
But when I started on the commercial side, after I got out of the Marines and moved back to Pennsylvania, I was an employee for a company. We did metal studs, drywall, exterior framing, and EFIS, we call it here, the exterior insulation finish system, doors, hardware, cabinets, ceilings, flooring. Same thing I do now as a union member, I was doing as a non-union employee for a company in Pennsylvania.
Okay. And how did the whole union thing come about? How did you fall into the union world, or how did you become a union member? Like, were you told to be a member on a particular project, or did somebody reach out to you and say?
The one company I was with, I had been with them for 14 years and had a disagreement with a project manager and a few other things. And I finally said, Friday's my last day. I'm leaving. They were like, well, where are you going? I says, I don't know yet, but by Friday I will have a job. And I went to another company as a superintendent and ran a couple big jobs for them. And then we'd moved down here into West Virginia. And in 2006, that company I was with had stopped bidding work down here. And a couple of guys that had left the first company and followed me had joined the union. They were union drywall finishers. And they was like, well, why don't you talk to this guy? It was the owner of a union company. And he says, yeah, with your experience, I'd love to have you on, board with us. So I paid my initiation fee and I came in as a journeyman. I didn't go through the apprenticeship, but it's because I had already had so many years of experience in the trade.
So just give me an idea of the cost then, back then, like to join the union.
Back in 2007, I think the initiation fee was like $250.
Okay. So the initiation, when you say initiation, that sounds like an induction to me.
Yeah, same type thing. And that got me my membership card and so on and so forth. And then I could work out of the hall. If I'm off work, I'll call the hall, put my name on the list. And then when a contractor calls in, they'll search for guys to man the job.
Okay. And do you feel that you got a better rate by being involved with the unions that you wouldn't have got if you were an independent non-union member?
When I came on board the union, I was making almost what the union members make on an hourly basis on the paycheck. But then I would have to take out of that money from my 401k for retirement and then for my health insurance.
Yeah.
I had to take a certain percentage of that. With the union, our pension, our health care, and all that is part of the benefit package, which is over and above our base wage.
Okay. So it was more to go with the unions because you were getting those uplift of the pension and the 401k and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I have an actual pension, which is different than a 401, and then plus my health care. And we all know what health insurance costs can be nowadays.
Yeah. So the 250 was an annual fee. That kind of
no, that was just a one-time fee, and then every week, we have a working assessment that comes out of our check. It's what is it? It's like 0.04% of our wage is our working dues. And then we have a monthly dues we pay to help cover administrative costs and things of that nature.
Okay.
And then that covers, should a contractor fail to pay the benefits or fail to, pay what you're supposed to be getting, the union will bring attorneys in to fight for those benefits that you lost.
Okay.
And to help. It's the way it's set up. I mean, the union is a good thing because they look out for the workers. And when you have unscrupulous contractors out there bringing in undocumented workers or misclassifying workers so they can pay them less, we have attorneys that will go after that, take it legal action to make sure that those workers, even if they're not union, that those workers get compensated per how the job is.
So I'm hearing a lot of positives about joining the union. One thing that got me from my conversation with you, was how you feel obliged or feel that it's part of your role to bring young people through the career of construction, regardless of whether it's carpentry, but that you would be assigned an understudy apprentice, if you want to call them that, from time to time. And that, some people might look at that and go, hold on a minute, I've got a job to do here. I can't go back and start showing somebody fundamental stuff that you should know anyway coming in here. This is going to distract me and the job. I'd be interested to hear some commentary on that and some of your experience around that whole, how that works.
With our apprenticeship, we have a pre-apprenticeship test to see where they stand. So, how well can they hammer nails or follow directions to assemble things? Can they read a tape measure? Now, we have definitely had ones out in the field that didn't know how to read a tape measure that I would have to take under my wing and say, okay, this is how you do it. Go home tonight and practice making these marks. I give them some numbers to go measure and cut boards, just to help get them up to speed. Yeah. And then with carpentry, especially on the commercial side, you can be into many, many different things, from building scaffold, concrete forming, wood framing, metal
First
framing,
fix, second fix,
drywall, other siding. Our trade runs quite a wide gamut of the actual industry. And when I have an apprentice underneath me, I always try to get them focused and working on learning the task at hand and being able to perform it to the best of their ability.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started something 3 years ago. When I have an apprentice working with me, I've got doubles, triples, quadruples of many different hand tools that I have, from framing squares, chisels, plumb bobs. I've got quite a inventory. So when I lose an apprentice, either through layoff because the job's coming into an end or they want to send him to another job, I will gift him one of my extra tools that he had worked with.
Wow.
To add to his toolbox to carry with him on down the line.
Well done, Clyde. Nice touch.
And, it keeps them engaged. It, they understand that you're there to help teach them. One of my big issues is like I said, with healthcare. Our apprentices have to go to class 2 or 3 times, I think, if I remember correctly, during the year, where they're missing work for a week.
Okay.
And sometimes if, the job had a rainy time, we were doing outside work and they lost a couple other days, they would end up with a copay for their health insurance. And that's a fight I'm probably never going to win, but I think, the apprentices should get credit for their health care during that week.
Yeah.
Even though, they're not being paid from the company they were working with. But I don't know if it's that way in all areas, but it kind of happens to be that way in this area. Yeah. And it's something that, I'll probably get yelled at for, about it, but I still keep bringing it up. It's just one of those things that, they're there learning. They had to take time off work to go to school.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be penalized.
Disadvantaged. Yeah.
For that week.
Yeah. Fair point. What would you say to me when I tell you that there's a general feeling that I get that the unions are not as strong? Definitely not in Europe. I don't know about globally, but they're definitely not as strong in Europe as what they were. And what would your viewpoint be on that? Would you agree or disagree? And is there something that's after happening in the commercial market of construction that unions are maybe a declining industry or a declining identity?
We have a big problem here as well on market share, like you guys do over there. It depends on the part of the country. Like up around New York, a lot of your bigger cities, the unions are really strong. Even out west, in different areas, the unions are extremely strong. But down in the South, like in Florida, Georgia, some of those areas, the union's not as strong. And, that's kind of disheartening.
Yeah.
But I see the point because, like, I've had the experience of close to half my career on the non-union side.
Yeah.
And nowadays, if anybody decides to follow me after this, Gavin does, and he knows I post a random thought on construction.
Yeah.
It's just a quick little thought that I might record a bunch of them on a Sunday or a Saturday, but it's a quick little thought on different things about the construction industry. And my goal is to open people's eyes to the bigger picture. Whether we're union or non-union, we're out there to build a legacy.
Yeah.
And to get the job done at hand.
Is there not a force working against you in the sense that if I am Mr. Big Manufacturing and I don't agree with unions, I want to give a fair pay, but I want the work done, and I don't want to be getting into conversations with an institution that might, dictate to me, or, there's an opinion that they might be calling the shots to a point that we have the product, which is the workers, and you have just a piece of land. So you're not going to get this built unless, we all come together in a sort of harmonious environment that benefits both parties. Some major corporations might turn around and go, no, I'm just simply not going to build a plant then there. I'm not going to go to Florida or Miami or whatever and build it over there. And so you just lost 6,500 jobs because of the fact that you wouldn't comply.
That happens, unfortunately. And It happens daily and weekly. Here in our area, we used to be a prevailing wage state, which any government-funded contractors, the contractor had to bid it basically at our scale. So even if the guys were non-union, they were making a lot more money. Somewhere along the line, a couple years ago, our state house and Senate decided that we were going to become a right-to-work state, which did away with the prevailing wage. And as soon as that happened, we started seeing contractors come in from out of state, bringing a lot of undocumented out-of-state workers to get the job at a lower cost.
Yeah.
And it turned out that on a few of them, anyhow, it's quite well documented that wasn't a good idea because it ended up costing more money than it would have been if we had hired a contractor that was paying prevailing wage and was bringing in, better workers and so on. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, both sides, I mean, it can be a double-edged sword. The company I happened to work with on the non-union side in PA for all those years, we were a large company.
Yeah.
And the quality of work was good. I mean, you're going to have great skilled tradesmen on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Now, one thing with the union, the safety is more involved than it is on the non-union side.
Yeah.
We have a lot less documented injuries, a lot less documented drug use. I mean, we still have the problems because, let's face it, you get hurt on a job, the doctor is going to prescribe you pain pills. Opioids are extremely easy to get addicted to, but you're going to be taking them and popping them like candy so you can be out there on the job site getting the work done to make a paycheck for your family. That's one of the problems, mental health. You've seen me talk about it and the opioid problems.
Yeah.
And actually this Friday, I'm sitting in on a webinar on other statistics and that on another mental health that's being done by a college out of Washington. I've sat in, went through a couple of their webinars already and got, certificates about, mental health talk in the construction industry. And that's why I've been trying to pass on in some of my random thoughts or, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And same way with women in the trades.
Yeah, 100%.
I've worked with some very, very good women carpenters, women iron workers. We had one woman iron worker that she'd outwork the men.
Yeah.
I mean, that girl got it tying rebar.
But where do you see the markets? Is it more non-union these days and less union? Or I know that's a very broad question. It's probably unfair to ask you that, but you might have a sense of it, do you?
The market right now, we're still trying to gain market share back. I mean, the market now is predominantly on the non-union side, depending on the size of the job and depending on what the job is. Like most of our road work and that for bridges is going union. Same way with like power plants and, big things like hospitals and that. Most of the work, the initial work on the structure and that has been going union, but there's been a lot of retrofits at hospitals, a lot of smaller medical centers and things of that nature that have been going non-union. And it's just an ongoing thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the institutions, I would call the power stations and those nuclear and maybe wind energy and, massive utility projects. They're more institutionalized builds, if you don't mind me saying so. And then the mainstream construction is the one where you're sort of, that was your bread and butter, I would suggest, in terms of the unions back in the day. Whereas, is there an argument that in the institutional type industries like the power stations, that the labour is kind of a higher grade labour than the mainstream construction, and maybe that's where the unions fit better, where it's kind of there's a competency thing there?
Going to be my next point with the unions across all of them. The training they go through during the apprenticeship, and then like we have journeyman upgrade classes where we go in a couple evenings during a week when they have the class scheduled to learn about things like welding, because we do welding as well. at times. Learn how to run a robotic total station, different leadership classes.
Yeah.
Things like ICRA for working in occupied healthcare facilities, on how to protect the patients and yourself from any pathogens that might be hidden behind a wall, or with your construction dust and debris and everything, keeping the patients and the staff of the hospital safe.
Yeah.
That's where the union stands out, really, is in the training.
Oh, it's brilliant. I totally get it. Hate to use the term loose, but even in you see it in construction in Europe now, that there's more productivity than there is labor to meet the productivity, and because the barrier to construction generally is low to get into construction, the standard of labor seems to be below par to where it was maybe a decade ago. And I'm hearing from a lot of small builders, medium-sized builders, and even tier 1 builders that they can get to work, but they just can't get the labor. So you would think that would be an opportunity for the unions to sort of get back on track and say, hey, we've got this.
Yeah, we have that same type problem here. There's been companies with the unions. When a non-union contractor comes to us and talks to us, they'll try to work with them and set up, like a project agreement where they'll use our members for their workforce.
Yeah.
And then the one thing that, this one's going to get me yelled at, but the one thing I don't agree with is, in today's day and age, we need to keep looking at project agreements on a case-by-case basis. Some of your smaller contractors might be trying to bid larger work, but if they had already had a couple project agreements, the union's looking at them like, well, you've already used our guys and shown, we've shown that we can do the work. Go signatory, sign an agreement to use our guys all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that might not be feasible for a lot of companies.
Yeah.
And it's one area where you get a bad taste in your mouth on both sides.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at the union as being a bully. When the union is looking out, trying to get more non-union contractors to come signatory.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that takes time. In my opinion, that might take a couple years and 8 or 9 project agreements.
What would you say? What would you say to me if I told you that there's a whole brand, reputational brand damage done to unions? That the way they set out their stall back in the day, that stigma still sticks with them of, we'll go to the gate, over our dead body, we're going to let this happen. You're the big bad employer that doesn't pay people, and we're going to, bring your name out into the street, and we're going to, maybe have knock on your door, family talks to sort of threaten you, to sort of make sure that you do the right thing by bringing in unions, and all that sort of palaver, if you like, that went on years ago. And I'm not saying that it happened in the States. It happened throughout the world, that there was that sort of persona image. Is that still, is there a rebrand, is what I'm trying to say to you? Is there still a rebrand needed with the brand of unions? And maybe it's not called a union anymore, that it's called some sort of a collective agreed forum of like-minded people who actually want to help construction to put it in the right framework.
I can see your point on that. And yeah, there's still areas where the unions haven't gone out quote unquote knocking doors and threatening anymore. That was back in the early days of the coal industry and the steel industry. But we will go out and picket, pass flyers, stating the case. That can be seen as a little, heavy-handed as well at times, I guess.
It's kind of like there's a sort of, if you don't mind me saying so, and you can like, this is an open conversation as it always is on I'm the Gaffer, but it's kind of guerrilla warfare tactics, if you don't mind me saying so, that I would have perceived, and I would have looked at it and went, if you're gonna bring people to the table and win the hearts and minds, you've got to have equity for everybody. And defacing a brand or damaging somebody's brand is very personal to that company or to that individual or collective individuals.
Yeah.
I suppose my point is, is the word union defunct in today's, new age of construction?
I'm not convinced that it's a problem. I think some of the ways of thinking and the anti-union rhetoric out there is, in their viewpoint, is well-founded. But if you would actually step back and look at the overall big picture and realize that, we're there to build the job just like that other company's there to build the job.
Yeah.
My main point, being union, non-union, is we're there to build a job. We're not there to argue. Everybody needs to work together and collaborate to get the project done to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
And I've been on quite a few jobs over the years where we've had union contractors working for non-union companies, working side by side. And everybody, there's been a couple instances where things have got a little heated and, arguments.
Personal.
Yeah. It's kind of in the way, the point of view of the individual is in how they take it.
Yeah.
The media and everything has stepped in way over their heads, and they can kind of control the information that everybody is getting, just like in the political scene.
Yeah.
One of the big things with the unions is Democrats.
Yeah.
I'm an independent. I've got quite a bit of Democratic views as far as the working man. And I've also got a lot of Republican views as far as the other side of things.
Yeah.
With my faith in God, my country. So, yeah, I'm literally a textbook independent as far as the political scene here in the States. And here in our area, we have had a lot more Republicans looking and realizing the unions are needed.
Yeah.
And have been voting on favor of things for the working man and woman, which is one of the main things that I've always felt the union has fought for is,
equal rights,
equal pay type thing for the job. Fight for your rights. Let everybody, when they hit retirement age, should be making a living wage, shouldn't have to be struggling.
Yeah.
That's the main thing the unions fight for. And I've seen an awful lot of non-union companies really don't want to pay the wage, even though their bids are going out really close to our scale. And the owners are pocketing that money and making more profit for themselves. In my opinion, they're being greedy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that happens in every industry. It's one of the things that inflation, gas prices shouldn't be anywhere near as high as they are. Same way with a lot of the cost of food and things of that nature, and same way with the healthcare industry that I keep going back to.
Well, now you've a head of efficiency in government departments.
This is going to be an interesting year.
This is
coming
going to
up
get interesting
here in the United States.
Yeah, I wonder, will the unions be seen as an efficient model, given that the head of the efficient model department might have his own personal views on where he puts his plants and where he builds his cars.
Well, that's, yeah. Like I said, it mainly comes back down to the individual's, point of view, and trying to get everybody to open their eyes, step back, and look at the bigger picture. All this infighting needs to go away.
Oh, do you know what I love about your mindset, if you like, Clyde, is that people might listen to this and go, "Oh, he's pro-union." You're not entirely pro-union, and you're not entirely independent contractor. Like you're easy. You can easily be one or easily be the other. You're not telling people you need to join the union. You're not shoving it down people's throats. You're not.
Yeah, I would love to get more companies into the union, but I'm not one to force them.
Yeah.
Like I said, the way I look at it is we're out there to build a job.
Yeah.
I bring my 30 plus years of experience to help the contractor and the client and the stakeholders get that job built to the best of our ability.
And you've explained it very well.
It's going to last.
You've explained it very well how the competency side of the model in the unions is such that it's trying to create a consistency of skill set, regardless of the trade, that can be sustainable for the future, rather than bringing in ad hoc labor and relying on individual relationships to maybe train that person to be a poor carpenter or an average carpenter or an exceptional carpenter, but not all the same. And I think I got that from the discussion with you here today. Was the unions, regardless of whether you like them or not, they have a formality and a structure and a sort of a conveyor belt system.
Yes.
It might be archaic, it might be needs a few tweaks on it, but it's definitely better than having the alternative, which is hopefully you'll have a good mentor.
Yeah, that's one thing. I was fortunate when I worked all those years on the non-union side. I worked and learned under. Within 4 years, I was running close to $1 million job. And I got to learn how to set doors and do ceiling grid from some very talented people, hands-on. They were like, this is the way we'll make it easier instead of fighting it the way I was trying to do it myself.
Yeah.
It all goes back to, like I said, with the union, with the apprenticeship, when we have apprentices out, the journeymen take them under their wing to teach them our little tricks. This is the easier way to do it.
In Europe, it's kind of more, the companies will take on these apprentices and some of them will work out and some of them won't. And in fairness to that model, I would say, and this is my own opinion, but if you spoke to most of the HR and project director team, probably one of the main core reason that they wouldn't hold on to an apprentice would be work ethic, as opposed to applying themselves to skill. And what happens generally then is once they come out of their apprenticeship, then a union might grab them and say, or somebody within the company that's in a union might grab them and say, hey, you need to join the union now. Well, why? Well, if you join the union, we can protect you from maybe being executed like your buddy was at the apprenticeship stage.
That's, yeah, like the main thing about the union. Now, I will admit that there are a lot of journeymen out there that will get sent out to a job that they've never done before. And they're as bad, if not worse, than a first year apprentice on that job.
Yeah.
And I've had apprentices that went through their whole 4-year apprenticeship and all they did was build scaffold. I'm a firm believer that you need to, unless you really, literally want to just do drywall, metal studs. If you find a company that is mainly that, and that's all you do, but don't go out to another job, unless you have some experience or at least some training. Go take a journeyman class, upgrade class. Learn that side of things.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate from my upbringing and everything that everything that we do in the union, I've at least done once or twice, from flooring to casework to high-end trim, concrete footings, concrete slabs, concrete structures, parking garages. I have been around it and worked it.
Yeah.
So, you can specialize or you can learn all of it.
Yeah, you can generalize.
In some areas of the country, they'll make their apprentices basically specialize. Around some of your bigger cities, you might be going through the apprenticeship for concrete.
Yeah, or carpentry.
Sometimes you might be metal studs and drywall.
Yeah.
It depends on the area.
Yeah.
Here where I'm at in West Virginia, we get called upon to go do all kind of things. One year I might be doing all kind of concrete. The next year I might be doing all kind of metal studs and drywall.
But is that not down to population, Clyde? The density of population within construction, within the region, within the state. That obviously, the more condensed the population, the more niche you need people to specialize in.
Correct.
Whereas you just go with we go with the whatever's in front of you if the population isn't as dense.
And that's being here. We try to train the apprentices. I'm good friends with a couple of the instructors, and we work at training them in all the aspects of our trade. But you still have, guys, and this is where sometimes the union does get a bad rap with companies that will call for people. Well, you'll send them out to a job and they're absolutely sticks in the mud because they're not confident in doing that particular job.
Yeah, it's too specialist.
And that's, that's one problem. That's why all the apprentices I work with, I was like, make sure you go learn everything we do. Go work with a company that does all the different aspects of things we do.
To be honest with you, Clyde, that's not specific to the trades. I work in health and safety, and it's very broad as well. And it's exactly that. Working on a nuclear power plant in safety is a totally different operation than working on a domestic house build or stuff like that. So, you're on the money. Let me tell you this. We like to throw curveballs at the guests. So if you don't mind, I know you're in Virginia and I'm in Ireland. I'm going to throw some curveballs at you and see how you react, all right? Knowing what you know now, what would you do different in life? And that can be personal or business.
I would probably have started taking some more of my construction management classes a lot earlier. Because I've got my professional certificate now, and I would have just looked at expanding my knowledge at a little earlier age than what I am now.
Yeah.
And tried to start making a difference then.
If you weren't in construction, what would you do?
Or
what would you like to have done?
If I hadn't screwed up, I probably would have retired from the military with the United States Marine Drum and Bugle Corps.
You would have
I love playing drums, and I love my dirt racing too. So, I've got many different things that my hands are into. I had the misfortune of losing a rank. I actually almost lost 2 because I was supposed to be getting promoted to sergeant, and I went from corporal back to lance corporal right before that was to happen. And I got my corporal stripe back, but I couldn't get sergeant put on, and 8 years basically was a service limitation as an E4. But if I could have stayed in, things might have been different.
Yeah.
And I might not have started this side until I was 39.
Oh, wow. But you just hit off something there, which is, I think we should go back to it anyway, but a point of interest that if someone didn't know you, they wouldn't know this about you. What would that be?
Probably the fact that I love mechanical things besides building things.
Yeah.
I'm an avid dirt racer. I love our dirt late model. The engineering that goes into them is astronomical now compared to what it was just 20 years ago.
And safer.
Oh, yeah, a lot safer.
Yeah. So is it the NASCAR or what in particular?
Dirt track.
Dirt track, okay.
Yeah.
So how often do you do that?
I didn't make it to a race this year, but in fact, we didn't put either car on the track this year. My brother was really busy with his powder coating business up in PA, and his car's ready to go for next year. Mine, we're looking for a motor again and financing for that. Now, what we run, they're late models, but we run a sealed class. We call them crate lates. They're a sealed GM motor. They make roughly 400 horsepower, and you can't do anything to the motor.
Wow.
All we can do is change the valve springs. And then if something happens in the motor, it has to go back to a certified rebuilder.
GM rebuilder.
To get resealed and fixed. But
how many cylinders are in those type engines?
The crate motors are right about $7,000 right now.
Jeez.
A super motor they're putting out 900 horsepower on pump gas or naturally aspirated, no turbos or anything like that. They're about 50,000.
Well, with 900 brake horsepower. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we still have our super motor up in PA. It's sitting there, but we're both running crates, and the competition having the motors, it's a lot closer. Some of your guys that are running supers that do it for a living, to put money on the table.
Yeah.
They've got $2-3 million in the racing operation.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the money's a whole lot higher. I mean,
yeah, but it's a pretty slick operation that they have.
Yeah, it's like our operation. It's like a little mom and pop store against Walmart's.
well, good on you. And that actually brings me to the point that you are, you're an underdog and you're a fighter for the underdog. I don't know if anyone has ever said that to you, but from my interaction with you, I love the fact that you support the underdog. I love the fact that you value that you have something to give back. A lot of people leave the industry, or a lot of people are in the industry and just are very singular and sort of, don't look at the fact that they need to give back their wealth of knowledge, their skill set, their time, their motivation and their inspiration. And that's what you do. So I think you should be very proud of yourself, Clyde. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it? I know that you have an interest in doing a similar model of your own version of mentorship and coaching and helping people in the industry. So just give us a short summary on that, if you don't mind.
Actually, I joined LinkedIn. Like I said, I call it the Facebook for professionals around here. I joined it a couple years ago, and then some of the interactions, like Jerry Alberserti, Jesse Hernandez, and a couple other ones, I saw what they were doing, and it's like, you know what? This is a way for me to get my voice out there, to pass on my knowledge from all the years. And that's the reason I started the Random Thoughts on Construction, and also the Construction Talks Unfiltered, which I need to get back at. I've got a couple more women I want to interview and highlight them on that, because I was doing a little Women in Construction mini-series.
Yeah.
But
so if people want to contact you, they'd contact you through LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's the main easiest way to contact me, through LinkedIn. Or if you happen to be on Facebook, I'm on Facebook as Clyde King, but you'll know it's me because you'll see a picture of me standing beside a race car. on there. On LinkedIn, I've got my hard hat on. I'm on my more professional side.
Yeah, the yellow hard hat.
Facebook, I don't post on nearly that much anymore.
Yeah.
It's just for keeping in contact with my friends and that I served with in the Marines, and then classmates, and then different family, and then racing acquaintances.
I definitely think that if there's any construction owners or people in construction that have a challenge in terms of how to put together a framework to support new entrants into their business in construction, I think you're definitely somebody people should reach out to and have a conversation with, because we do need more people like yourself, and regardless of whether you're union or non-union, that's irrelevant. It's about the right person for the right job with the right work ethic, and then creating that environment for them to flourish, so that they can then get to a stage later on in life that they go, hey, Clyde King really changed my life, and I want to give it the same sort of present, if you like, or gift back to the next generation. So well done, you, Clyde.
Well, thank you for that. Like I said, my main thing is to get some of my knowledge and thoughts out there. Different parts of the country and the world also have different codes.
Yeah.
Always be learning, people.
Always be learning.
Reach out. If you're on LinkedIn, look at trying to get a LinkedIn Premium.
Yeah.
The LinkedIn library is a vast library of knowledge and classes that will help your career.
And people are open to a conversation. People just sometimes think, oh, I'm not going to say anything to him because he doesn't know me. He's in a different part of the world. This podcast is a classic example of, we contact people like yourself randomly and say, hey, would you like to come on the show? And like, yeah, I want to share my knowledge. I want to tell people my story. And for that, I wish you the very best, Clyde, and thank you very much for coming on I'm The Gaffer. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the program, and I hope people reach out, and I hope you keep doing what you're doing.
I thank you for having me. It's been an honor, especially with your views being around the world. It's been an honor.
Thanks very much, Clyde. We'll see you again in the future.
Yep.